Now back to Steiny and Guru. Take it away, Steiny.
All right, Matt Steinmetz, Darryl the Guru Johnson with you. Obviously, the big news is Chris Paul's a Golden State Warrior. And on the phone right now, we've got CJ Holmes.
CJ.
He covers the Golden State Warriors for the San Francisco Chronicle. What's going on, CJ? How you doing?
Gentlemen, what's going on, man? I'm doing well. Hope you guys are good, too.
Yeah, let me just add, there are a lot of aspects to this trade, obviously, or to the Chris Paul acquisition. When you heard about the deal, what was the first thing you thought of? Why they do it?
Using my language, my first thought was, what the hell? You know, the Warriors relate to Chris Paul in some trade rumors. When he initially got rerouted to Washington. But so I wasn't too surprised to see Dunleavy go after him. I am surprised that they decided to give up on Jordan Poole, especially after Dunleavy just sat in front of the media on Monday and said that they plan to keep him on the roster for 4 years, and to trade a 24-year-old who's super productive as is. Say what you want about his season last year, some inconsistencies here and there, the poor playoff run. But this is a guy who averaged, I think, 17 points and shot 50% from the field during the Warriors championship run. And, slumps from guys like him who get big contracts, that's expected. But to move on from, a 24-year-old budding star, for a 38-year-old point guard, that kind of scratches my head. And then last night during the draft, it's revealed that not only did the Warriors give up Poole and Ryan Rollins and a draft pick, but they also gave up on Patrick Baldwin Jr. A lot of people thought was going to break into the rotation next year. He showed flashes. I mean, his opportunities were few and far between last year. Don't get me wrong, but when he was on the court, he looked like a guy who really fit the Warriors system, an excellent jump shooter who could stretch the floor. And to find out they gave up on him too. So essentially the Warriors gave up 3 young players, two of their 3 2022 draft picks, and future picks for a 38-year-old injury-prone point guard who's played less and less games as his career has matured, because he's coming down. He's ascending now, right? Chris Paul's career is a commercial airline. He's in the landing gears are out for Chris Paul, and he's not going to start, right? I just can't imagine a scenario where you're going to start a lineup so small and have Chris Paul out there of Klay Thompson and Stephen Curry and Wiggins and Draymond Green, so he's going to come off the bench. So now, not only did you trade for a 38-year-old point guard, you traded for a 38-year-old backup point guard who's injury-prone, who's going to play reduced minutes. So to give up all that for, in my opinion, a question mark at this point in his career. Don't get me wrong, Chris Paul's one of the best point guards ever to do it, but at this stage of his career, I mean, you just look at last year. You want to talk about bad postseasons. I mean, Chris Paul didn't, he got injured again in the second round against Denver. So if you want to compare bad postseasons, right, between Jordan Poole and Chris Paul, I mean, take your pick. So my thoughts on the trade, it's to be determined. A lot of it's going to be determined on if Paul can stay healthy, if Paul is willing to accept this reduced role that I think is coming for him for the first time in his career. There's certainly some benefits for the move, right? Paul is, like I said, one of the best point guards to ever do it, in reduced minutes, playing that backup point guard role in the second unit with guys like getting Jonathan Kuminga, easy shots at the rim. I mean, when's the last time the Warriors had a point guard willing to throw the lob, right?
Yeah.
Three and rolls with Jonathan Kuminga, getting guys like Moses Moody open shots. You can see the vision, but to give up so much for an aging backup point guard, I'm scratching my head, guys.
CJ, I was in East Texas in a Baptist church in 100 degrees heat, and I feel like I'm at church again. You are preaching. I agree with everything, but what's starting to bother me is the Warriors fans, and I told Steiny this, we've been on the high hog. We commended Joe Lacob, and rightfully so, about blowing past the tax, and, the fans don't care about that. but this is all about cost cutting to me, and I don't like it because the savings, I get Joe Lacob and the investors needed, but that doesn't help the club. You can't go get a player. I mean, Jordan Poole could get you 20, and when Curry or Clay were gone, he might get you 25 or 30. CJ, I don't feel like this team is better today than they were yesterday before this trade was announced, and the money cutting stuff, that's starting to bother me, but I get it.
I would like to think that the Warriors are going to, like, for example, Dunleavy addressed the media yesterday after the draft, and in no ways, I didn't get any sense that they were done making moves, right?
Right.
By parting ways with Ryan Rollins, by parting ways with Baldwin Jr., that clears up that clears up 2 roster spots heading in the next season. I have the sense that the biggest moves the Warriors are going to make, especially now that they find ways to cut costs in different areas, is going to come in free agency. This is Dunleavy admitted that it's obvious that we need to add some size. I'm not in the camp that says the Warriors must have size to be championship contenders. There's a lot of recency bias with the Nuggets, with Jokic winning a championship, but do not forget, just 2 years ago, the Warriors won a championship with 6'9" Kevon Looney as their tallest player. So they don't necessarily need size. They just need the right pieces. And I think that Dunleavy's plan heading into free agency is, 1, to re-sign Draymond Green, and 2, bring in extra front court help via free agency. Who those players are has yet to be determined, right? But I don't think the Warriors are done making moves. But to answer your question, look at the roster top to bottom right now. No, I don't think they're better than the group that went out there last season.
CJ Holmes joining us on 95.7 The Game, covers the Warriors for the San Francisco Chronicle. Let me throw some. Where I'm at with the Warriors is, I'm realistic about the place they're in. I don't really like any of the avenues they can go down. I think they're all fraught with some risk. But does Joe Lacob, in a way, have an out here? Because he can tell Warrior fans, look, we're not saving money just to save money. We're saving money so that in a year or two, we can have our mid-level exception to try to get better. You know what I mean? Like, he can actually say, we're not just doing it to save money. We're doing it because we can't be penalized like we're going to be penalized if we don't change course.
I think I agree with that. I think, Chris Paul they brought in Chris Paul on an expiring contract. I think the team has $75 million total in expiring contracts at the conclusion of this upcoming season. So I think that, whatever they're building, I think their focus is more so on next offseason when they have even more financial, flexibility to go in and get dudes. So I do think they're planning ahead. They're not throwing this season by any means. I do think they're making a conscious effort to improve the team. But I think that where we're going to see the biggest improvements is going to come next offseason when some of that cap space comes off the books.
Yeah, good point. And I was telling Steiny, I don't like that. That's how spoiled we are, CJ. Other markets think like that. But hey, you're from DC. Have you got your ear to the street on how Wizard fans are reacting to the acquisition of Jordan Poole?
I've been talking to some of my buddies over the last 24 hours about the move. Well, first off, let me say this. Like you said, every time Jordan had the opportunity to step into the starting lineup, he shined.
Oh, man.
Dude has every tool necessary to be a star guard in this league. And I wish him the best going to play for my hometown Wizards. Obviously, they're in a rebuilding situation. They parted ways with Bradley Beal. They shipped Kristaps Porzingis out to Boston. But they got a little intriguing group now. Like, you got Tyus Jones.
I like him. Yeah.
Jordan Poole at the 2. Patrick Baldwin, I think, might do something special there, right? And, more so than anything, Jordan Poole is going to get an opportunity to be the man. He's going to be able to put up 25 shots a night if he wants to.
Man.
And I think in that situation where he doesn't have the pressure of, knowing that, if I go out there, I might make a mistake. No, they're going to let him play out there in D.C., and he's going to, not only do I think he's going to be a candidate for most improved player, I think he's
going to win it twice.
Top 10 in the league in scoring next year.
Yeah, I agree. I said that too yesterday, CJ. I'm like, this guy might lead the league in scoring.
Dude.
Hey, didn't he win most improved already? He should have.
I think Clarkson got
so.
it. Yeah, I think Clarkson beat him out.
Well, my point is he should have won it the year he came back from the G League.
No doubt.
Can anybody win that thing twice? All right. Anyway, let me. I'm going to just throw it to you this way. Just see your reaction. CJ, are you telling me that the Golden State Warriors are going to have Steph Curry under contract for 3 more years, Draymond Green under contract for 3 more years, but Klay's going to have to play the final year of his deal?
I think that's how it's going to turn out. I think the best thing with Klay, especially considering is, now we know that the Warriors, they kind of focus in on, not focus in, but what's the word? Jordan basically got traded after one bad postseason. I know they have the whole issue of Draymond and the punch and the tension that's come with that, but in my eyes, it looks like Jordan had a bad postseason and they traded him away. So Klay is coming off of a pretty poor postseason themselves. So I think the Warriors' best bet, especially knowing that they have a lot of cap space coming open next year, is to let Klay. They're gonna re-sign Draymond. It looks like that is the plan. Like you said, Steph's under contract. I think they want to play wait and see with Klay, right? And I don't think they're just going to throw him the money immediately. And it sucks because the guy who's overcome as much as he can, as he had, and he had a pretty strong regular season, if you ask me. I mean, the dude led the league in 3-point, set a career high 3-point makes, led the league in 3-point shots. But I think they're going to play a wait and see approach with Klay, let him play out the year, and I wouldn't even be surprised if they let him hit free agency just to get an assessment of what his market value is. Because, if you can bring back Klay Thompson to keep the core together on a bargain, it seems like that's something they're going to do at this point. But, yeah, I agree with what you're saying. I think they're going to make Klay play out the final year's contract and do a wait-and-see approach and see where he's really at by the end of the 2023-24 season.
CJ, I know you're not a GM, but I told Steiny this yesterday after the show. Here I go. You just brought in another young big, 23 years old from Indiana. Jonathan Kuminga in the 19th pick or Jordan Poole in the 19th pick couldn't get you Turner from Indiana. Like, that's what would make me excited if the Warriors had that type of player. But do you think that would have been enough? If I'm the Pacers, I'm looking around like, I'll take that.
What do you mean by that? Rephrase that. What do you mean?
Like Miles Turner, how to use that to try to get him in a Warrior uniform. The 19th in Kuminga or the 19th in Poole.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Heading into the draft with the Warriors, they have a bunch of young players on the roster, many of which they've struggled to find consistent minutes for. Now you're bringing in Brandon Podemensky. Sorry if I butchered that, Brandon. And Trace Jackson-Davis from Indiana. 2 more rookies who are going to have to find places in the rotation at some point. And as the Warriors clearly look like they're going all in on the present and abandoning the 2-timeline approach, I thought it would have been wiser to package pick number 19 and, maybe another player with that to go get a veteran who can step in and play right now on more of a sure commodity. With that being said, if you look at the 2 draft picks the Warriors made, they're of the older variety compared to guys they've taken in the past. Podemensky was only a 2-year guy in college, 1 year at Illinois, 1 year at Santa Clara, but he's a sophomore. He has an extremely polished offensive game. Very impressed with him. But the question is, like, the Warriors are still pretty stacked at guard. How's he going to fit into the rotation? Will the Warriors expect him to play immediately? And I am blown away by Trace Jackson-Davis's film. I mean, I don't know how that guy lasted so long in the draft. You played more of a traditional big position at Indiana, but I see him as more of maybe a Kyle Anderson type. I mean, the guy can put it on the floor a little bit, has some wiggle to his game. He's 23. He's not a kid.
Yeah.
He plays with force around the rim, another lob threat for a guy like CP3 to find up at the rim. Again, I would like to see – obviously you can't go into the regular season with him as one of your backup bigs, just considering the fact he's never been in the NBA. I'd like to see what the team can do in free agency to address the interior. But I'm happy with both picks. I think they fit the culture of what the Warriors are trying to do, what they are right now, and like I said, they're a little more experienced, so hopefully that means less of a learning curve, and they'll be able to play sooner rather than later.
CJ, thank you so much for joining us, man. Great stuff. And, Warriors are back in the limelight again, man.
Yeah, shaping up to be another interesting season.
Absolutely.
We do that every year out here in the Bay, so we'll see how free agency goes. Summer League's coming up. We'll get a chance to get a look at some of these newcomers, and like Mike said, we'll hit the ground running.
All right, man. Take care. Have a great weekend.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Yes, sir. That's CJ Holmes, San Francisco Chronicle, Division I athlete.